The latest research on creatine suggests that we have been sleeping on its most important benefits. For the longest time, creatine has had the reputation of being a supplement that you need to take if you are trying to build muscle or you want better definition. And while that's true, the latest research suggests that there are so many more major benefits to this very well-studied supplement. If on occasion you don't get great sleep, you suffer from brain fog. If as you're aging, your biggest fear is getting Alzheimer's or just having cognitive decline. If it's important to you to maintain your muscle and to have strong bones as you age, creatine is a supplement you need to be taking. And this latest research is going to blow your mind. So what is creatine? How much should you be taking? What are the benefits of it? What are the risks associated with creatine? Can you take too much? Does it cause weight gain and water retention? What about bloating? Especially because of this latest research, it feels like everybody and their brother is trying to capitalize on this craze and people are coming out with creatine products. It's not FDA regulated. It's not a drug. It's something you can get over the counter. And because of that, because it is a food supplement, you have to be so careful because a lot of these companies that look very reputable and they have certain claims about what's in their powders have been tested, and there's a lot of garbage out there. So that's what we're going to cover today on the Chalene Show. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get to it. Hey, my name is Chalene Johnson, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Chalene Show. If you're watching here on YouTube, thank you for taking just a moment of your time to subscribe. It's free. I love it when you do that. And I talk about all the things. We talk about anything that helps you to age powerfully on your terms, whether it's fashion or makeup or hair, skincare, fitness, nutrition, sleep, relationships. We talk about all those things here. So I hope that you'll subscribe. It's free. But today we're talking about creatine. Now, as a health and fitness expert, someone who's been in the fitness industry for more than 35 plus years, I've helped millions of people to get in shape. I've talked to them about their health and fitness. You might recognize me from late night infomercials. I've done lots of fitness programs, and I was anti-supplements for the longest time. In fact, when I was in the consumer fitness industry, I was the only fitness trainer that I knew of in the organization that I worked with that declined the contract that was offered to me to promote their supplements because I just didn't believe in them. Even though it meant making less money, I was like, I feel like supplements are something people don't need. They can get what they need from their food. But I stand here corrected because I was wrong. And I learned that from doing my own or having my blood tested, having panels done on my nutritional levels and my hormone levels. And when I wasn't taking supplements and I was deficient in all these areas and it was impacting my ability, it was impacting everything. It was impacting my bone density. That was the first thing. Is like I discovered that I had osteopenia. And I was like, how is that possible? I lift heavy. I eat food that's rich in calcium. How is this possible? And the fact of the matter is I was very deficient in magnesium. I wasn't taking creatine. I'm sure there's a genetic component to it as well. Anyways, at that time when I had my panels done, I realized like I was deficient in all these areas. And then when I started doing supplementation, which is not taking more, it's just like bringing you up to the baseline where you're supposed to be. And I saw my levels coming up and everything started working better. The weight started coming off. The brain fog started to lift it. I'm like, okay, so yeah, I guess when we know better, we do better. And one of the things that I've been really intrigued by lately is creatine. Now, I personally this is my personal belief, is that magnesium is like the most underrated supplement that everyone, like, how do we not know all of the benefits of magnesium and how so many people would benefit from taking a magnesium supplement and how it impacts your hormones and everything else. But now I'm beginning to wonder if creatine isn't the new, like, underrated supplement. It's a compound. So what is creatine? Creatine is a compound that's naturally occurring in your body. We can also get it in very small amounts from red meat, some seafood. It is really important if you're a vegetarian or if you're someone who's consuming primarily a plant-based diet to probably supplement with creatine. Creatine is naturally occurring in its most common form. You're going to see it taken as creatine monohydrate. And then there's different forms of monohydrate. Like, so how they process the monohydrate has an impact on how well it absorbs into your system and if you might have any digestive upset. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But so what does it do?
It helps build muscle. That's why bodybuilders take creatine. Mm-hmm. But it also helps with cognition and memory and focus, which is why, we have to carry that at Brain MD. And it's got no taste, and it's great.
Creatine, we've known for a long time, helps to bring water to the muscles, and it helps to provide energy, adenosine triphosphate. So we know that it helps to regenerate our muscle tissues. We know that it improves recovery. We know that when we're taking creatine, the muscles develop better.
Creatine's main thing is skeletal muscle mass. So again, that's going back to the fragility of the body. They ran studies on creatine where they had patients that were exercising with creatine, just exercise alone. And the patients that were on creatine with exercise had more skeletal muscle mass and then better exercise tolerance and endurance.
It has been thought if you're just taking creatine and you're not doing any strength training, that's not necessarily going to preserve your muscles. So there was, we long held this belief that okay, well, if you're not strength training, what's the point of doing creatine? All that has changed tremendously because now we know that there's so many more benefits to creatine than just what we formerly believed it did for our muscles. In fact, this year, some of these new studies have revealed shockingly impressive benefits to the brain and cognition and the body, our bone density. I'm really excited about these. Creatine taken in these higher dosages, we're talking 10 grams, 20 grams, 25 grams of creatine allows for that creatine to pass the blood-brain barrier. But before we dig into those, I think it's really important for you to know that this is considered one of the most highly studied supplements. There's been over 1,000 different creatine studies. And to date, there's very few, if any, negative side effects, even at the super high dosages of creatine. However, creatine does kind of have this reputation. I don't know if it's because of social media or bros at the gym or whatever, but anytime I bring up creatine, people are like, wait a second, doesn't that make you retain water? And I think the reason why it has that reputation is because it delivers water to the muscles. I mean, yeah, it's delivering water to your muscles, but hello, your muscles need water. And so if you're someone who's completely freaked out by the number on the scale, this is not your show. I'm really trying to talk to those of you who are I want to be optimal. I want to have power. I want to have strength. I want to have all these benefits. Could the weight on the scale go up a little bit if you're having a little bit of water retention in your muscles from creatine? Sure. But wouldn't you prefer that if it helps with bone density, if it helps with muscle development, if it helps you to be leaner in the long run? I know I would. And P.S., I have since these new studies come out, and a lot of the people that I really respect in the industry, meaning neuroscientists and doctors and PhDs who study this stuff, have started openly talking about their much higher dosages of creatine. And because there really are no negative side effects, I have dramatically increased my dosage, and I haven't seen it change the scale in terms of water weight at all. Ironically, this has my creatine in it. Now, I know that's anecdotal. And for some people, they just, I don't know, the thought of retaining a little bit of water really freaks them out. But I think then you got other issues to worry about. Other than that, there are really no negative side effects at these higher dosages, other than the fact that now all these companies are running out of creatine, literally. So before I go too much further, I do want to say this. There's just this, I guess, scramble, it feels like, by a lot of less scrupulous companies to put out creatine gummies and creatine powders. And I've heard influencers say creatine is one of those supplements that it really doesn't matter who you buy it from because it's just a really easy compound to manufacture. I can't think of anything more irresponsible to say, frankly, because that is to presume that people are honest and aren't going to try to make a fast buck. There's always going to be people out there trying to make a fast buck. And there's been countless YouTube videos recently exposing these companies that are producing so-called creatine products using creative ways to say that they've got creatine in the product. And there's literally almost no creatine in these products. So I'm sorry. I think that's very irresponsible to say it doesn't matter who you get it from or that it's an easy to produce compound. That's true. But anything that's not regulated, there's always the chance that people could be scamming you. And you just have to be careful. So my recommendation before we go much further is always make sure that you're looking for a creatine powder that comes from a very reputable company that's doing third-party testing. And hopefully they are using an NSF certification so that, you know, what you're getting, what they're saying is in the bottle, the box, whatever, the bag is actually what you're getting. And of course, I'm happy to share with you. I've taken creatine from 2 different companies, very well sourced, very reputable companies. I'll share those with you in just a moment. But first, let's talk about these new studies. The first study coming out of 2024 looked at high dosages of creatine given to Alzheimer's patients. And I'm going to link those studies below this show as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, right below the video, you'll see like a little description of the video, and then it'll only be like a sentence or two, and then it's kind of truncated with some dots. Just click on that and you can see the whole description, and that's where you can see the links to any of the studies that I'm referring to or products, etc. But in this study, they noted an 11% increase in brain activity with these Alzheimer's patients. That was quite remarkable. But just a few weeks ago, a new study was published in the Journal of Menopause looking at the impact of creatine on menopausal and perimenopausal women. And what they discovered was an increase in bone density, an increase in muscle development, an increase in cognition. So we now know that creatine, even though it's something we produce naturally, because that begins to decline as we age, it's even more important that we're supplementing with creatine because it's helping with cognition. We're now learning at these higher dosages, it crosses that blood-brain barrier. And that's not the first study. There's been countless studies looking at and testing sleep-deprived individuals, including those who are, you know, in special forces, depriving them of sleep up to 36 hours, and then giving them a super high dosage of creatine and looking at how within 3 hours, it tends to offset any cognitive impairment. I mean, you know what it's like when you wake up and you're completely sleep deprived, which is usually when we've got a flight the next day. I always end up packing so late and I don't sleep well. And then I wake up that day and I'm just like in a fog. Well, just recently that happened to us. I think I got like 2.5 hours of sleep. I sure did wake up and take 25 grams of creatine. And I don't know how much of it was just like, you know, the placebo effect or whatever, but like, I swear, I was like, wait a second, why do I feel so mentally sharp when normally I would be walking around in a fog? Again, the research tends to suggest that taking a high dosage of creatine, not on a regular basis. Now, I'm not talking about this being like a substitute for getting good sleep. And I don't even know if any studies have been done, being honest, looking at how often you could do this. But on occasion, I certainly been doing it based on these studies. And what we're finding is that it offsets the cognitive impairment. Now, what I don't know, and I don't think they know yet from the studies, is what is it doing for that sleep deficit? In other words, you know, the brain isn't clearing, right? We have plaque in the brain that is cleared when we sleep. And so while you may be able to offset that brain fog, you're still not getting the benefits that we need with sleep. Our bodies don't repair and don't restore and don't rebuild when we're not getting adequate sleep. So trust me, I'm not trying to say do this instead of getting good sleep, but I am saying on occasion, these things happen and you just are getting horrible sleep. You might want to consider taking a very high dose of creatine the next day. What scientists have discovered is that creatine supplies adenosine triphosphate to the brain, which is basically the energy source. Like that is how we get energy from the cells. Our adenosine triphosphate is what makes us feel energized, gives us more energy. And when so much of our energy is used by our brain, it just makes sense that if we're taking creatine at these higher doses and it's able to cross that blood-brain barrier, what a tremendous benefit to the brain and cognition. I'm really excited to see more research as it relates to, you know, depression, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. There's a lot of up and coming research that we're learning about the impact of creatine on the brain that we never knew how closely correlated those two things were. Okay, so where do you start if you're considering taking creatine? First of all, I personally would recommend it in a powdered form. A couple different brands I would recommend. I started personally with Thorne. This is a very reputable brand. The Thorne version of creatine is micronized. Now, what does that mean? It means It's a very, very, very fine powder that dissolves quickly and absorbs well into the body. The Brain MD Smart Creatine, which is what I've switched to, and I switched to this one after learning about experiencing a little bit of digestive upset when I increased my dosage. And so when I had a little bit of digestive upset, I did a little bit of research and found out that the way that the Smart Creatine is processed, it's called instantized. So it's an even finer powder. It completely dissolves very, very quickly, but it doesn't cause any digestive upset. So for me, that's where I want to go. Again, I will link both of these below in our show notes, but I've also noticed, this is like a pro tip for anyone. I think that, like, you're ahead of the curve. You listen to shows like this, so you're finding out about these things kind of before everybody else does. But about a month ago, I couldn't get creatine. Like, all of the companies that I normally order it from, everybody was out. And it was because of these new studies. And think about it. If the supply chain was meeting the demand of people taking 5 grams a day, and then there's this new study out that says, hey, taking 20 grams a day has no known risks associated, and all of these brain benefits, all of these benefits if you have sleep deprivation, all these benefits for bone development, and all these developments for, all these ways that it can improve muscle development. And people go from 5 grams to 20 grams a day, which a lot of people did. Like, you could not get your hands on creatine. And so just a pro tip here. If you're already sold on creatine, or you already take creatine, may I just suggest you get more than one canister? I just got a shipment of like 8 of these. I feel like I'm hoarding creatine, but I don't want to go without now. Like, now I'm like, okay, this is my new magnesium. Of course, I still take magnesium too on the daily, but how much should you be taking? I am not your doctor, and I'm not a doctor. I just pretend to be one on the internet. Just joking. I know a lot of doctors, and based on their recommendations, based on the information from the studies that I've referenced, I always want to tell you, you should talk to your doctor or clinician just to be safe. If you have any prior kidney issues, obviously you want to talk to your doctor. Anything at all, and when in doubt, speak to your practitioner. But certainly 5 grams a day is what people have been saying for forever, and there are really no known negative side effects. So if you are going to increase your dosage, I would suggest titrating up, especially because some people do have a little bit of digestive upset, because some people are worried about bloating or water retention. Then sure, you might want to titrate up slowly. I went from doing 5 grams daily to then doing 10 grams daily, and just check to see, okay, how does that make me feel? Now I'm probably doing 10 grams almost every single day. And a lot of days I'm doing 20 grams, like on days where I haven't got great sleep. And again, it's not just about the sleep for me, it's about the cognition. My father-in-law has Alzheimer's. His father had Alzheimer's. I had family on my side that had Alzheimer's. That is my greatest fear. Like, I don't care. I love getting older. I think it makes me wiser. I love all the freedom and autonomy that it's brought me. I like feeling like a know-it-all. I like that I don't have as many people that like, I love everything about aging, but my greatest fear is losing my mind and having people have to not knowing who people are and having people have to take care of me in that way is such a fear. And to see how people lose their dignity and the impact it has on families, like, that's just my greatest fear. And so I do everything in my power to have a strong brain. And one of those things includes increasing my dosage of creatine. It seems like a no pun intended, it seems like a real no-brainer to me. So I am now 10 grams most days, probably 2-3 times a week. I'm at 20 grams. Why aren't I at 20 grams daily? I don't know. I'm not sure yet why. I'll probably work myself up to that. I guess maybe I want to see more research. I don't know, but that's just where I'm at. I just mix like 10 grams into my water with all my other powdered supplements. It has no flavor. And I also mix it in. I make this, like, it's called a fluffy jello recipe. And it's like super high protein. And I mix my creatine in that too. It's quite delicious. I'll share with you the recipe, but like, oh my God, it's so good. You just, here, I'll just tell you real quick. You just make jello as you normally would. As it's cooling, you mix in like a cup and a half of Greek yogurt. And then you can throw in a scoop of collagen and a scoop of creatine and make it like the ultimate delicious sweet treat that's good for your muscles, good for your bones, good for your connective tissues. Like, it's healthy and it's yummy. So if bone density, muscle development, and having a very strong brain, maintaining your cognition is important to you, get on that creatine. And as I mentioned before, the brands that you buy from matter. I'll share with you what I take, but I don't care what you take as long as you don't take garbage. And please, I know it's super convenient to buy things on Amazon. I'm just not a fan. Heard of too many disasters where people think they're buying from the brand on Amazon, and then lo and behold, they're actually buying a counterfeit or something, like these companies that buy up all these outdated products, or they make counterfeits. So when in doubt, just, I know it's a little bit less convenient, but go directly to the source. Go directly to the company and buy from them, and just, maybe buy a few extra so you don't have to think about it every other month. This is a 60-day supply based on 5 grams. This is a 90-day based on 5 grams. But now you're going to go through both of these so much faster because you're probably going to be taking more. So when in doubt, order directly from the company, and then you don't have to worry about those things. And ideally, you want to buy from a company that has a great reputation and is doing third-party lab testing. If at all possible, look for companies that are NSF certified. As always, thank you so much for double checking to make sure that you're subscribed, and for leaving me a comment and asking me about my new wavy hair. It's just like crimper. Do you remember crimpers from like the 80s, ladies? But it puts like a big crimp into your hair. I found it on the TikTok shop. Drop a comment, say, Chalene, I need the link to the crimper. Forget about the creatine. Let's talk about hair. I love you. I mean it. And I'll talk to you soon.